tell me, what is a spearhead effect? Not the movie. What does that mean?
The spearhead effect, it's the first step towards greater change. You know, sometimes, it's like the vanguard in medieval times would be a group of knights, heavily armed, that break through and allow the rest of the army to come in. So that's sort of what this means. Is like one person taking a stand, doing something extreme in order to get greater social change.
Sounds like something that has nothing to do with our time right now.
Right.
When did you guys start filming this?
August of last year, 2015, actually, I should say. Man, it's already 2017. It's crazy. It's 22 days of filming, very intense shoot, 6 days a week. I don't know how many hours a day, 27 hours a day. But yeah, we did that in August 2015. And I wrapped up post-production about March of 2016.
Is this kind of, in a way, a reaction of what's going on today in the world?
Well, the directors and I did not intend to make this, a piece that was sort of, not a message piece, right? We're just trying to tell a great story. But it just so happened that all this stuff was going on, and it's kind of amazing just how relevant the film was to current events and just how well it tapped into the zeitgeist, of society and things that were going on. So to answer your question, no, it really wasn't. But it somehow, just luckily interweaved itself into that greater, social narrative. I think the film really touches on the power of social media as a news source or as a way to connect people. Regarding ethics, there's stuff like the Acorn thing that happened a bunch of years ago, and all these undercover operations, and undercover operations like that tend to yield good. But I think what a lot of movies haven't touched on is the power of social media, like I said, and how that really can get things going. We look at the Arab Spring, for example. It happened a number of years back where the Middle East got, Twitter and Facebook on fire, and all of a sudden that entire social landscape changed. So I think that the Spearhead effect really touches on that, and just how one person's own feelings spark a nationwide movement, which I don't think is too out of this world. I think that's the beauty of this movie, is that people walk away from this thinking, hey, this really could happen. This really might have happened. It might be happening. So I think that's the power of it.
What has the response been? And one particular group of vigilantes essentially initiate him into their group.
No, this is our world premiere. So we're super excited about that. We have had some private screenings. Great response, everybody walks away from just like, whoa, that was awesome, intense, but, really cool movie, and that's great to hear, especially because the movie's, it's such a small production team, and, just basically keeping things together with duct tape and bubble gum, but just somehow making it happen into this, pretty great movie that we're super proud of. But the reaction has been great.
And where are you guys going after this?
Well, we're trying to get into a couple festivals. We're in the final rounds on some local LA festivals. We're getting some interest from international fests. It's been a long road, but it's finally looking like people are, starting to respond to it, and hey, this could be great. But we're super excited for DIFF. Really excited to have our world premiere here. Well, Terrence Malick is one of our he's our executive producer. Obviously, huge Texas connection there. So we're very fortunate to have him, have his blessing, have him on board, helping us out. So yeah, that's the main Texas connection there, and a couple of our production crew also Texas natives. So yeah.
Not necessarily a reactionary piece. I think it's impossible to kind of ignore the climate of the times, and it was something that was probably more in our subconscious than upfront and personal. We just really wanted to tell an exciting, paranoia thriller akin to the films in the 1970s, because that's what we kind of bonded over. That's how we started writing together. And I think it's just, when you're writing a film taking place in modern day, there's always going to be something that you're grabbing from the news or from the times.
Absolutely, and I think something to catch people's attention is, you do want to draw them in with things that matter. And so even if we're not necessarily making a statement, you still, I think, you want to bring up issues that people are talking about. Even if they disagree about what they saw in the movie, you still want that conversation to come up. So yeah, I'd say we were influenced by what was going on, but we weren't necessarily trying to make a particular message out of it.
But tell me a little bit about kind of your feelings on journalism, advancing the line between kind of what is ethical and what is acceptable in journalism. Because journalism has changed so much since the 1950s. People are doing things that are more social conscious. So tell me a little bit about that.
I think the concept of journalism is as important now as it's ever been, especially as you see it being demonized right now in the news. A lot of that also is journalism's own fault. I think the fact that the line has become so blurred really is the fault of both sides. I think there's always going to be a place for journalism, and ultimately I do think that the lack of ethical and moral lines is problematic. But that being said, desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yeah, I think, because in the movie, our main character, he's an online journalist, and I think that's obviously something that's a very new term. And also, I think something that we're showing is who knows what you're going to do to get your attention out, to get people's attention as a journalist or storyteller or activist or vigilante, whatever side of the issues you may be on. There's a different way probably of getting a hold of people's attention than it was even just 10 years ago.
And ultimately, I think what our main theme was the idea of repercussions, that regardless of the reasoning and the rationale behind your actions, there will be repercussions that you likely cannot predict.
Yeah.
And there's a danger. There's always been a danger of certain types of shows. I feel like it's more now because people know journalists on Twitter and Facebook and they follow people now. Whereas before they were private people. A lot of times you didn't even know what politics they had or anything like that. But now it's kind of more dangerous when you have people following you. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, no, it's interesting. It's a very astute point, and something that we did, a term that we used a decent amount was muckraking, which was obviously from a century ago or so. But the idea of at what point are you a journalist versus you're the news itself? What's the line between reporting the news and becoming the news, especially, like you said, if you're on Twitter, if your own personality is getting out there, it's almost a different thing than just being a journalist at that point, right? But again, it's a blurred line, and the answers aren't always so easy. But again, the one thing in this movie is if you take a very strong action, there will be a reaction. And I think that would be one very strong theme in the movie if you watch it through to the end.
If you're watching to try to be inspired by journalism, it's probably the wrong movie. Just from from the very first scene, our character Jade Stetson, he's lacking in objectivity, and which is kind of an important cornerstone of journalism. So we wouldn't say anyone that wants to become a journalist should take any pointers from our film. It's a bad idea.
No, it isn't, because you kind of have to see the whole spectrum of what's out there. So tell me about your characters and your actors, and where did you find them?
Well, we found one right here. That was an easy cast. And we had an amazing casting director, Rane, our lead actor, who was somewhere around here, was actually the first person we saw for the entire film. And we loved him instantly. And we had to look to ourselves and we're like, all right, he's great. We should probably not jump the gun and hire him. So we saw probably 10 or 12 more people, and then ultimately it just came back to him. We knew he's such a partner in the entire production. We really felt like he understood the character as soon as he came in for that first audition.
Yeah, and I think we were really interested in the team aspect. As far as the cast goes, we were very careful not to hire people who weren't really excited about the story. And even in callbacks, you would start to get a sense of who was looking for a paycheck, not that it was that high, versus who was looking for, being a part of a film they could be proud of that would be at a place like this here at Dallas International Film Festival. So luckily we can report back that everyone who was a part of it had a great attitude, and they needed to, because it was a really low budget, do-it-yourself, grind-it-out production, and it all worked out.
And I feel like for an actor, it takes a lot out of you as well, because I mean, it's so intense, and there are moments where, I mean, it's just, I feel like for them, they might have to have the right frame of mind.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. You know, especially for Rane, who played Jake, and he was a character that went essentially on a fast to get into the state of the mind of someone that just really wasn't mentally all put together. I mean, the dedication that he showed was amazing, and it really blew us away.
Yeah, and then we were shooting. We shot for several days. A big segment of our movie in a garage in Burbank in the summer during a heat wave, 115 degrees. Outside. In the garage, it was about 10 degrees hotter, and we were wearing those rubber masks for 12-hour days. So it wasn't not the toughest thing to do in the world, but it wasn't necessarily easy.
And we didn't lose one actor.
Right.
No heat stroke, no passing out,
Okay.
so that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
No, irritated maybe, but not harmed.
Yes.
All right, well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for the astute questions.
Great to meet you.
I spent a lot of time watching a lot of different YouTube personalities and people that, you know, do that sort of blogging style thing. I'm a fan. I myself am not necessarily a fan of that, or I wasn't. But I would say that since I did this movie, I spend a lot of time now on YouTube watching different personalities, whether it's talking about fitness or nutrition or politics or, you know. So it definitely had an effect on me in that sense. I look to YouTube and people's opinions because I think sometimes it's a more honest opinion because they're not being influenced by advertising, right? So you can just get up there, film a video, give your opinion, and then I can view it as someone watching it and say, I don't have to believe it is true or false, right? It's just their opinion. And I think sometimes we watch the news and we say that's fact. But it's just an opinion, right? It's an opinion of the people that are paying for that program to be made, in a sense, right? Journalism is supposed to always be the truth, but it may or may not be. And so when you're watching some of these YouTube personalities give their opinion, at least to me, I always take it as just that, as their opinion. And so sometimes it's just kind of a way to connect to another way of viewing the world and realizing that it's just an opinion and it's not reality. You know?
Well, what an interesting exercise as an actor to say, I don't agree with this, or like, I don't know this. But then challenging yourself to be that person, because when I was there, I was told.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you can't have judgments against your character. I mean, you know, I have actor friends that will read a script or play a part, and they're like, I'm not like this, and I have judgments against this part. It's like, well, then you're gonna have a really hard time playing that because that character, when he does that, usually is probably, you know, that's what he wants to do or she wants to do. It's a darker film, and I like doing both, but typically, you know, I kind of at least tend to pick roles that are a little darker, or the subject material that's a little darker, because I don't know, for some reason I just like exploring that because it's kind of taboo sometimes, or, you know, just like things that are a little challenging and grittier to get into are just harder to do, and so it's you get more out of it in the end sometimes. But then the other route of doing something really light and funny has its own challenges in a totally different way, especially for people who aren't used to doing it. So, yeah.
When you started making this film, did your radar kind of go off on, you know, because it's relevant to the time. So did you start seeing, it's kind of like when you buy a certain car and you start seeing that poke of your car like everywhere. Did that happen to you as far as like you become more aware of things like in the media, and not just YouTube, but that I'm talking about like politics and
I am admittedly extremely disconnected from politics because I really despise watching mainstream media. It's nauseating to me. My parents are really into, well, not both my parents. My dad is pretty into politics and listens to a lot of talk radio and things like that. I just can't stomach it. And so I would say most of my view of the world comes from more of the newer generation of getting information coming from, you know, other people's Facebook posts and Twitter and these YouTube videos, and I get the information that way. And like I said before, I'm taking it in and I'm realizing that these are just all these different people's opinion, and I have to determine my own opinion. I'm not viewing things as fact because I think it's kind of hard. We're in the misinformation age sometimes, I feel, right? We have all this information, but it's hard to kind of distinguish the truth from the fiction sometimes. So. We worked a lot of days and a lot of hours. I think I had 1 day off out of 21. And that thankfully came after there's an action scene. It was a couple action scenes in the film, but the really heavy, extensive action scene that we did, I remember running around for, I don't know, 14 hours that day and just being exhausted. And I showed up on set the next day, and we had an issue with something went wrong on set, and I showed up to work exhausted. All I wanted to do was stay in bed, and then they said, "Oh, we're gonna give you a day off. You can go home." And so I went and got a massage, went to the spa, like slept all day. It was great, and then I got a day off scheduled after that, and then back on for another 18 days after that. So.
What's next for you?
I've been doing a lot of writing lately, and I wrote a TV pilot, co-created and wrote a TV pilot with someone, and that's in its final rounds of development over at Sony. So hopefully that's something that's going to be kind of moving forward in the direction that it seems to be very shortly.
We're going to see you here again.
Thank you. I hope so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.